All right, so we're going to get started. Welcome everyone to our workshop session on day 4 of Leadership Convention. Hard to imagine it's Thursday already, but it's been a great week so far and we expect it to continue. My name is Lisa Falco. I'm the New Jersey PTA Leadership Convention Chair and Region 6 Director. And I would like to welcome you to Leveraging Technology to Communicate in the New World. It is going to be presented by Barry Saide, Roosevelt School Principal, who is then going to introduce your other co-presenters. And we're going to start now. If you would like to ask a question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A and or the chat, and we will get to your questions as quickly as possible. If you'd like to share some thoughts or comments, those definitely go in the chat box. Questions can go in either chat or Q&A. I will monitor that and help our presenters sort through those to get your questions answered. So Barry, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome and thank you to you and your other presenters for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting us, Lisa. It's an honor and a pleasure to talk about all the great things going on in Manville and share that out with the wide world. So I'm Barry Saide. I'm proud principal of Roosevelt School in Manville. I'm joined by my colleagues in crime, Alicia Mathewson and Mrs. Rikki Erickson. So let's get started. We're going to talk about leveraging technology to communicate in the new normal. And if you take a look at the marquee that we have right there in that picture, that's actually what we have on the marquee at Roosevelt School right now. Usually we'd have something along the lines of dates for August and remember to pick up Chromebooks and make sure paperwork's in. Right now, we just want to see you, you know? So we've kind of narrowed down those expectations into just communicating and connecting. And we're going to kind of talk about that and go from that as we go into technology and the new normal, which we're all kind of going through right now. So, Ms. Matthews.
Yeah, so some of the things that we're going to sort of talk and really kind of just discuss is how we've used our technology platforms in order to communicate during this unprecedented time. We're also going to give you examples of some of the things that we did from March to the end of the year, but also some of the things that we were doing already, which really helped us to connect to the outside parents and community.
All right, and let's keep rolling. All right, Miss Erickson, tell us about how awesome you are.
Hi, my name is Rikki Erickson, maybe more known as that helicopter mom to a sweet 4th grade boy named Chase. We are entering our 2nd year at Roosevelt, and I'm also starting my 2nd year as a Roosevelt PTA president. Not sure whose idea that was, just kidding. But I'm not finding an excuse to stop by this school just to check in, planning my next PTA move by calling NJPTA to ask Robert just another quick question. I'm either talking teeth, sweating in a bar class, or my favorite thing, laying on the beach. I mean, who doesn't love the beach?
And you're never bothering us. Like, we look forward to seeing you.
Yes, I hope so.
Stop it. All right, so tell us, I thought it might be a good idea to kind of talk about, you know, even before we started on this podcast, Lisa and I were talking about kind of where we are right now and this whole idea of what the new normal is and where we were a year before to where we are now and kind of how that's affected the way we look at the world and how we use technology. So do you want to talk about a little bit about you, like as a parent, what was the normal and what is the normal?
I mean, I'm no longer prepping Sunday night for the Monday to Friday grind. A lot more at home. The old get ready, pack a school lunch, drop off at school, make sure I'm back for pickup in time. Not really happening right now or for the last few months. I've been lucky enough to be home and reduce my hours so I can, you know, not have to hire anyone or struggle too much.
Yeah.
To be present all summer, a lot of beach days. And then also during the spring and, you know, beginning of summer remote learning, which was an experience, but honestly, I learned a lot, maybe even more than my son did, but I learned a lot and it opened my eyes a lot to what you guys do and how much work you guys do. And I'm very grateful for that. You know, before I was, like I said, dropping off at school, going to work, getting back, do the homework, get dinner done, find time to go work out. You know, and in between that social event play dates, whether it's a school event or, but now we're kind of trying to come up with safe play dates, staying home more often. and still trying to maintain a lot of relationships, including, this coming year and even the end of last year I'm very much into having a relationship with my son's teacher, like knowing them and feeling comfortable talking to them. And I was able to do that whether at a school event or even at pick up a quick question. But so, that's going to be a whole new thing, but I feel like I was still able to keep that at the end of last year. And I hope the same, through whether it's parent teacher meetings or anything like that. You can kind of see in my pictures, I have a little tradition every end of the year. I take a picture with his teacher for his scrapbook I have. So luckily he had an amazing teacher this year. That's the picture you see on the bottom. We still got our picture in, no matter what, we made it happen. So, everything is different, but at the same time, we're making it work. It's not so bad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Miss Mathewson.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia Mathewson. I am currently a third grade language arts and social studies teacher at Roosevelt School. I am actually a product of the school district. I graduated from Manville High School. I went on to Montclair State, and then I got my first teaching job at my old elementary school, where I taught a combination of kindergarten, second, and third grade. Third grade is sort of my sweet spot, so I'm hoping to stay there, Barry.
I didn't say anything.
Just a little bit about me. I also have my ed leadership degree. I got that at Seton Hall. I do really love being a teacher, but I know there's something a little bit greater that I can contribute to education. So that's definitely a direction that I am seeking. We like to joke because I feel like I'm involved in every committee under the sun. Sometimes I volunteer, sometimes I'm asked, but I'm always happy to be a part of anything. And I just recently was able to get my climate reality leadership cert by completing, I think it was 8 full days of online webinars under the direction of Al Gore. So that was a really cool thing that I'm looking forward to utilizing in the classroom or virtually some point at, during this year. So I'm
That's
excited
awesome.
about that.
That is cool. So let's talk about your normals.
So typically in August, a teacher has 1,000 to-do lists, which I still pretty much do, but we're worried more about, how is our classroom going to look? We're connecting back with some of the teachers who we haven't seen all summer. We're purchasing new decorations or going clothes shopping to get, comfortable shoes that you're in all day. We're labeling certain materials. I have a flexible seating classroom, so it would be sort of planning out how we're going to roll that out, talking with other teachers about field trips, making sure my carpet space in my classroom can accommodate for all of the kids so we can sit together during our midday meetings. But this year's a little bit different because I feel like from day to day, everything is changing. So how do I set up my classroom, or how and where will I be teaching? Will I be a teacher of the hybrid model where I have students who are both learning virtually and in person, or will I be a fully virtual teacher? I'm stressing a little bit about how I'm going to be, able to make connections with these brand new third graders that I haven't been in contact with, or how am I going to develop those relationships with their families? Instead of stocking up on new outfits, I'm stocking up on Old Navy face masks because I'm going to need a bunch of them. Talking more about digital resources or the Bitmoji classroom craze, or, which lessons do I want to pre-record or work together with my colleagues in order to collaborate so that we can provide different learning experiences to our kids. Are we, having live meetings on Zoom, talking about online apps and resources? The phrase that keeps coming into my head is less is more. So I'm trying to, hold back and not bombard Barry with all of these questions about things that he doesn't know either. But it's just a really weird feeling to have to rethink education. But we're doing it and we're making it work. So.
100%. I think the one thing that we always talk about as Roosevelt Colts is that we are all about the team, right? So whatever comes our way, we'll figure it out. We have each other's backs. And I think, if anything, that's been the biggest thing for us moving forward as we continue on through this new normal. So a little bit about me. If you would have seen me as a student growing up, you never would have thought education was going to be my bag. You probably would have wanted to put me in a bag and send me outside. I'm someone who was bullied tremendously as a middle schooler, carried that with me all the way through high school. It took me 5 years to graduate high school. I had to graduate twice from two high schools, was suspended from both, and then took me 5 years to graduate from two different colleges with one degree. And then it wasn't until I was working at a summer camp with kids and I was getting paid every 2 weeks to just get to know them and them to get to know me, for me to realize, like, I love this job and I can't believe I get paid every day for it. So I did the one thing that all parents hate, and that's I quit the job I had lined up before I even graduated. And I went back to school, got my master's and my cert, and I worked 4 jobs and I paid rent. And I came out teaching second grade. And 21 years later, after teaching second grade, third grade, fifth grade, being a supervisor, director, and now a principal, it's the best decision I ever made. Besides, convincing my wife this morning that she didn't marry down too much. So that's me. And let's talk about my new normal. I think about, my zigzag way to get into education. And I think the fact that I didn't have an orthodox way to it has kind of made it that non-traditional way to kind of adapt a little bit easier to a situation that is not normal. So if you look at kind of some of the things that I would be working on, even on the left, you look at my pictures. On the left was my birthday last year. On the right was my birthday this year. It's just everything is different. And so the more that we can be sensitive and understanding of our staff, of our students, of our families, the better off we're going to be. So you look at the things that I was working on at this point last year, and then you're looking at the things I'm working on this year. There's certain words I had to look up because I just didn't know. I didn't know what an isolation room is. I didn't know what deep cleaning was. I never thought I was going to work in a building where we would have to scan students to be able to get them to come in, but that's where we are. So because of those things, I'm just rolling with that, and I'm letting know my staff, like, those aren't things that you need to be concerned on. I got it, right? As a leader, that's my job. So let me take that weight off of you. I'll do that heavy lifting, and you do the heavy lifting, the real heavy work of educating, supporting, loving kids and families. All right. So when we talk about technology, really for us as Colts, it's about making sure that we're controlling the message so families really understand the things that are going out and happening in our school and then going out into the community, especially now. Because we're in an information age, but we actually have a dearth of information. So there's so many times when parents will reach out to other parents, or teachers will reach out to each other. And, Miss Mathewson was even kind of saying to me, I don't want to bombard Barry too much. But at the end of the day, what I tell my staff is, right now, I'm available. Like, you have my cell phone, you have my email, you can text me. You even got me into Bitmoji. Like, if you need me, I'm there for you, because that's what you need, right? At the end of the day, I don't want my staff to focus on all the other things that can get in the way of just being there for kids, especially during this challenging transition time. I want to model that way for them so they understand that they can just be comfortable teaching every day, and whatever that looks like, we'll figure it out. So in order to do that, I need to be the one to help support that message getting out there correctly. So you think about right now, families connecting with other families, thinking about what school is going to be like. Maybe they're meeting up on play dates, or even having Zoom meetings, and they're saying, what do you think the fall is going to be like? And in the absence of information, what we always do, and it's human nature, is we fill in that gap. Right? Well, I think maybe it'll be this, or I could see us doing that. And then what happens is, by that third iteration of that, all of a sudden, like, Barry Saide's doing mixed age grouping classes, and he's serving ice cream for breakfast with the kids. And, every day is a dress down day. And so it can get really, really nutty. And so it's really important that we help control that message. And I need to be out there in front, modeling that way for all of my staff, so we're hearing the right things. Ms. Erickson.
I'm back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so going into 21st century technology requires on the parenting side. So obviously it's not the picture I posted. The only internet that we had to worry about then, there was actually no worry. Definitely a lot of worries when it comes to technology as a parent. The knowledge of the internet, I have to know all the platforms, whether it's social media, whether it's, just simple, even the school platforms, how they run before I can teach my son correctly. And all of us, internet safety, what to say, what not to say, who to talk to, what information to put out there. And just like even setting limitations for platforms. Google Meets, Google Hangouts is not a place to set up a play date. That's your school setting. That's your, there are other ways and other things that, other ways to connect, but that's not the appropriate setting. So teaching him even something as simple as that, teaching common sense, who, even at home, talking to his friends who he shouldn't be talking to, definitely setting limits. Just because someone has something, is able to do something, doesn't mean that he is able to. You have to do what's right for your family and what's best for your child to keep them safe. And also when it comes to, the next thing I put down was maximizing screen time. It's hard. It's definitely hard right now, especially when school is going to be a lot of screen time, to make a balance right now. Obviously, we want to give them a little bit of freedom, whether it's video games or chatting with their friends, but at the same time, we need to get them off those screens at some point, get them outside, take a walk, like something simple. So that's been a big thing in our household. And then even ourselves, just being an example with technology. If I ask my son, I think you should go do something, get off the iPad for a while, like maybe I need to get off my phone for a while, and show him, so then he's able to follow, and it makes it a lot easier if they see that you're also doing the same. So lead by example. And that's pretty much it. Like just, a lot of worry when it comes to technology, but a lot of limits have to definitely be set.
Ms. Mathewson.
All right, so 21st century teaching. On the one side of the screen, you could see this is actually a Bitmoji classroom that my co-teacher had created for our students to sort of navigate what we were asking them to do this past spring. I'm on there. I love hippos, so of course we've got that fun play on a hippo. Mr. Saide's up there at the top above the language arts. We also have our math teacher where she's in a race car, it looks like, saying ready to go. And that day our students had both art and PE. So if you look on the bottom left, you could see our Bitmojis for both our art teacher and our PE teacher. But we found that the Bitmojis are fun. They're fun for us. It makes, lesson planning and gathering and creating resources fun, but the kids also really love them.
They do.
So part of what 21st century teaching looks like is now having to meet the students and families where they are. Our district is very blessed. We are able to provide our students with Chromebooks from 2nd grade through 12th grade. But I know that not every district has that ability. So kind of knowing what resources your students have available to them, and then being able to provide them whatever type of lesson, direction, education that they are set up for. I think that that's really important. As a teacher, it means advocating for my needs, my colleagues' needs, my students' needs, but then also those parents' needs. Sometimes, the parents develop a close relationship to that teacher, and if I can advocate to an administrator what a teacher or a family might need, I think that that helps to create really good connections. There are many ways to communicate. I feel like this is just a list of what I personally use. This is not a list that everybody has access to, but making those phone calls or leaving voicemails, obviously email. My co-teacher and I used Class Tag last year. Our district pays for the Remind app. Making sure that parents are set up to receive those weekly Google classroom summaries. I think you can get them as a daily reminder or a weekly reminder. We have used the Genesis gradebook as like our information system, and we found out at the tail end of last year it was taking me I would say like what, Barry, 4+ hours
Yes, I remember
to
this.
communicate a weekly summary update of how my students were doing or if
Mhm.
there was any work missing. It went from 4 hours for, I think I had 42 kids that I saw last year, to 25 minutes. And that was a resource that we already had. We just didn't know that we had that ability to send those quick emails. So making sure that, you know, even on the teacher end, that I know what these platforms are capable of. Um, we connect with our kids via Zoom, but there's also the Google Hangouts, Twitter, and then of course any of the district, school, or teacher websites that we have, making sure those are up to date, making sure your parents and families and students know where to find the information. Setting clear expectations, creating how-to videos. I know as the Title I summer coordinator, I sent a bunch of Screencastify videos to get our kids set up with their school email, and then also getting them to join Google Classroom. So that was a really great resource. And the parents had good feedback about, you know, just watching a short video and being able to get linked up. You know, it calls for teamwork, and then of course being understanding and definitely flexible. You know, just remembering everybody's human. The kids are human, the parents are human, the teachers are human, the admin is human.
I
um,
am human.
yes, yes, that's definitely important.
Now, I could basically mic drop right here because Miss Mathewson just nailed the entire presentation in about 3 minutes. And again, that's one of the reasons why she has her ed leadership degree, and we know we love her, and she's a fantastic teacher. Um, but we know we're probably not going to have her that much longer. Someone's going to scoop her up, right? But while we have her, we're going to make her a part of 1900 plus committees, and that'll be great. So when we talk about that 21st century leadership, it starts with our teachers, and it starts with Miss Mathewson and all her colleagues, and they're all fantastic. I call them unicorns because a unicorn teacher is someone who's not just really good at instruction, but they're just really good. They're just good humans. And so Miss Mathewson is just one of our staff members who's one of our unicorns. So with all my unicorns, I want to keep them as least stressed as possible, and my family members as well. Manville, in the short time that I've been there, has really become like a second home for me. So when you're at home, you're very protective of that, and you want to make sure that everybody who's part of your home feels comfortable coming every day. And right now, with all the different unknowns and without all the information, and the fact that the guidelines and the guidance that we're getting has changed every 2 weeks over the last 6 weeks, it makes it hard to communicate with definitively any type of situation because it keeps changing. So what I've done in response to those things is really start with the old school technology, is just the phone, and just I reach out to parents every day. I tell parents to call me. I let my staff members know, like, look, if we get off the phone and 2 minutes later you have a question, call me back. Like, I'm here for you, because if you don't use that I can't support you, right? And part of that is also me being honest and telling my staff, telling my families what I know, what I can tell them, what I'm not sure about, and what I have no idea. And that honesty, that vulnerability goes a long way as a leader, and also just as a human being, because people know they can come to me and they're going to get an honest answer. They may not always like what they get. They may walk away wanting more information, but they will get an answer from me, right? And by doing that and being able to direct that information to them, I make it easier to drink from the fire hose that is the internet. So let's talk about connectivity. One of the things that we did pre-pandemic is we have all our students come in first thing in the morning to a daily morning meeting. And it's an opportunity for the kids to get to know one another, to really form those bonds, to have that opportunity to really form those relationships prior to going into the classroom and starting our day. It really sets the mood for the day, the way we want our day to go. And in addition, although we're a third and fourth grade building and we do close the doors, we don't want to shut the doors to those relationships that we have with families. And so what we do and what we've done is we utilize Twitter and Periscope to shout out all the great things that are happening. So one of the things I want to share with you is the morning dance party that we have every single day. We have one of our teachers who's an amateur DJ. I won't tell you her name, Mrs. Sweeney, but she likes to play different kinds of music, and the kids just started to dance when they started to hear it. So I'm going to show you a video where kids just started to kind of get up and dance on their own, and that just become a daily thing where kids come in and they dance. And then we sit down and then we start our day. And if you can't get excited seeing a bunch of kids dancing at the beginning of the day, like something's off. You know, there's days that teachers and I even got in the back and we would dance with them. And I can't tell you that I had the same moves that they did. I mean, I have the moves of a 47-year-old man, but so they're slower and a beat off, but it's still just enjoyable to be around that kind of energy. And it gets us ready for the day, right? And by doing that, I'm also sharing out with parents like Mrs. Erickson and others who might be uncomfortable that we're shutting the door, but we're not shutting them out. We're letting her know, we're letting all our families know that your child is safe, they're supported, they're engaged, they're loved. Everybody's going to be just fine. Look, we're dancing. Now, as we got on to the course of the year, we wanted to move it from teacher directed to student led. So one of the things we do every day is we do a daily affirmation, and it really reminds ourselves all the good things that we are as human beings, all those qualities that we bring to the table, to remind ourselves that we are those people and that that's the kind of day that we're going to have. So I want to share a little video of them leading that with us.
The expectation is doing our best today and tomorrow.
The expectation is doing our best today and tomorrow.
I am here to succeed.
I am here to succeed.
I have no excuse to fail.
I have no excuse to fail.
I am ready for school by being motivated.
I am ready for school by being motivated,
On task.
on task,
And on time.
and on time.
Now, I don't know if how many of our friends in the audience have children. I have two, and I can't get them to sit next to each other when they're watching a show that they want to watch. So the fact that we have our students who are sitting elbow to elbow, knee to knee, really engaged in getting ready for our day tells me that we're ready to go. It lets our teachers know that our kids are in a good place. It also lets us know if maybe some of our kids are a little bit off in terms of how they're responding, so we can have that brief check-in. And it lets our families know that everything is going to be okay. Ms. Erickson, how do you feel about, you know, you had that transition from Weston over to Roosevelt, and I know you got to pop in sometimes and watch those videos. How was it for you?
I was definitely lucky enough to see it a few times, and I mean, it even made my day, but I know that was definitely a huge thing for my son. I know in the beginning, he definitely wasn't one of the dancers, and then he started to slowly do some of them.
That dancing crowd got large by the
It did, and you know what?
know?
By the time I did drop off and 10, 15-minute drive to work, that was my thing. Sit in the parking lot, check Twitter, try to find them in the crowd, or even just watch the other kids, and it definitely helped my day too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, you want me to take this one as Mathewson? You'll take the next one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. So as we move over during the course of the year with our morning meeting, we wanted to kind of make sure we are educating as well as celebrating and affirming. So as we got nearer and nearer to the pandemic, and we started to realize that this might have legs and it might affect our students outside of school, it might change some things. We wanted to make sure that we were utilizing that protected time in the morning to remind our students some of those good hygienic skills that they were just going to need anyway. So I'm going to show you a little video of our nurse, who not only is she talented in terms of working in the medical field, but she's got like really good rhythm, and she might be able to rap a little bit. So come and watch this
awesome.
video. Yes, she is. So that's a fun way to remind our friends that they had to wash their hands. I know I showed this video at home to my kids, and now when they wash their hands, I hear them humming like zoom, 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 and a zoom, then wash your hands. And as long as it gets them to do it, I'm totally okay with it. You know, now as the year has started to go on and we got to a point where we went virtual and it went quick, right? It went from a Monday where teachers were asking me, what do you think? And I was like, I don't think there's anything to think about yet. Till Friday, I have egg on my face and I'm bringing the staff in early and I'm saying, look, I was wrong. Monday, I said this. Friday, here's where we are. Like we're after the day, make sure you take everything you need because I don't know when we're coming back. And so one of the things that started to fall really quickly, at least for me, something I noticed, and I think we all noticed as a staff, was just that camaraderie started to lack because we didn't have that daily time to check in with one another. We started to isolate ourselves socially. We were really just only seeing very few people. And so that lack of connectivity really came out. So within a month of us being on the full virtual learning platform, I started something called a virtual morning meeting. And so what I would do is I would ask our students, I would ask our parents, I would ask our teachers, just 3 questions, really easy. Tell me something that went really well in your day. Tell me something that you're working on that's going well, and tell me something that has nothing to do with education that you just want to share out. So I'm going to share you a little bit about what our virtual morning meeting looked like on the 15th. As you can tell, just like Miss Mathewson got into the Bitmojis and she did her whole class, I told my students and my staff, look, if you send me Bitmojis, I'll put you right here on the front of my virtual morning meeting. And they did. Miss Mathewson's right there jumping rope. So let's take a look at that. Morning, everybody. Happy June 18th, 2020. You know what today is? Yeah, it's Thursday. What'd you think? Come on, I got you. I got you. It's the last day of school. Well, let's enjoy this day together. All right, let's do this virtual morning meeting one last time. This is the 38th we will have done together. It has been an absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege to be able to share with you all the great work that you're doing with each other and to make sure that everybody else knows how awesome you are, right? If you remember the last couple morning meetings, I've said to you, if you send me a Bitmoji yourself, I will put it in. I'm glad that you keep sending it to me so I can keep sharing it with you. We got Jalen in the top left letting you know stay safe. We've got the bottom left, we've got Miss Mathewson letting you know that she is grateful. We've got Jade wishing you a good morning. We got Chloe B, who has a ton of books already. Chloe, I don't know, like, are you really worried about Avis? Like, you trying to tell me something? You're gonna be fine. Don't worry. We've got Miss De La Cruz letting you know she already misses you guys, and she's gonna see you today. And bottom right, we got Stanley letting you know that you rock, and you do. Speaking of rock, you ready to roll? Let's do this. So every day I would go through those surveys that I got that I put together through Google, and I would just build out a virtual morning meeting slide deck, and I would just share with staff, students, and parents all the great things that they were doing. And that was one way that we could continue to set the tone and the foundation for the day that we were having and let everybody know that while we might not be together in person, virtually we were still connected and then we were still caring about one another. That in our minds, nothing changed. Miss Mathewson, I'm going to pass it on to you.
All right, so one of the really cool things that we do in Manville is that Roosevelt School is a 3-4 school. So at the end of each school year, we invite the second graders that go to Weston School to come up for a visit. And we do like a mock morning meeting. They then visit each of the classrooms, and the third grade students and teachers kind of talk about what language arts or math or science or social studies or specials look like when they make the transition to our school. Because we were in the middle of the pandemic and we were all remotely learning from home, we didn't have the opportunity to have the kids come for a visit. So the teachers and Mr. Saide put together a welcome video, very similar to what we would have done in person, but we just did it with a twist and made it virtual. I know that the parents were really grateful, those second grade parents that are going to be third grade or are third grade parents now. We're very grateful to have that opportunity to sort of calm some of those nerves about, you know, like, what does this transition look like? Or we've been at Weston School for the past 3 or 4 years. And it was a really cool experience for us as the teachers too, to sort of, and you'll see when we play the video, we sort of all just recorded ourselves as we welcomed the new group of kids to our school.
You want me to play it?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Who's that?
Hi, soon to be Roosevelt Colts. My name is Miss Mathewson, and I am one of the third grade teachers at Roosevelt School. You can usually find me in room 10C on the second floor. Mrs. Nolan and I co-teach together, and we have a lot of fun in language arts. We do a lot of reading and writing activities, and we learn to work together as a team. Guided reading and book clubs are my favorite. Our classroom is very special because we have flexible seating. There are no assigned seats, and you get to choose a new spot each day. One of my favorite things about Roosevelt is our walk to school days. I usually lead the walking school bus from Weston. Hopefully next year we'll be able to walk to school together. I am so excited to meet you and get to know your families, and I can't wait for us to start our third grade year together.
All right.
The rest of the video was obviously the other teachers that work at Roosevelt School, the staff. We each all had our own video, and then Mr. Saide was able to, and that's the picture that you see here, in his really cool superhero suit, walk around the building and just give them sort of a virtual tour of what they would be walking or potentially walking into of this year. So, and then the part where it says share something to share, a lot of the kids and families were able to send in videos that we then posted in that morning meeting. So instead of feeling isolated at home, getting up and doing the same thing, the kids started sending in videos, whether it was to us, their teachers, or directly to Mr. Saide. And they're like, hey, can you share this? I, painted this, or I did this science project, or I went swimming, or I wanted to share this quote. And it was a really cool way to still stay connected while not being together.
Yeah. Miss Mathewson, I even used technology to figure out which suit I was going to wear. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah. A really quick aside, I did a Google survey that I sent out to staff to make sure that they would read my weekly newsletter, because I was always worried, like, are they reading it? Are they looking at it and being like, I'll read that later, and later never comes? So I put in a little piece and I said, if you fill out this survey, click on this link, you get to choose this crazy suit. Whatever crazy suit it is, I'll buy it. Now, keep in mind, I only have 29 total staff members in my building. I had 54 votes. So I think there was a little funkiness going on with the voting. Like, I was ready to take down the blue mailbox and like eliminate the postal service myself. But for some reason, there were 40 votes for this suit out of 29 staff members. You do the math on that. I don't know how that happened.
We just read your newsletter several times.
Yes, thank God. Finally,
right? Each time we read it, we got a new vote. I don't know.
Someone's listening to me. It's tremendous. It was a very impactful one-page Google document every week, folks. Let me tell you. So one of the things that's important for us to make sure that we're saying is that while the delivery changes, and it had to change, it doesn't mean that our standards do. It just means that the way we share them change. So for us, we wanted to communicate early and often to families that social emotional learning, the health and well-being of our students and our staff is of primary importance. That's the foundation of everything we do, and everything comes after that. So if you look on the left, Miss Conover had this great tweet where she shared out a corner that she had. There was a calm down corner with a lot of interesting little things that kids could use when they needed to regulate. As well, Ms. Conover shared some of the ways she used technology with students, where they would create their own quizzes to ask of one another. And then Mr. Rikki would would play some music on the smartboard, and they would do some writing digitally. Now, one of the other ways that we've tried to push our social emotional learning agenda forward is to involve our students in something we call mindful moment. And that's a minute that we can just stop, drop, and chill. Because we know during the course of a day, especially now when we're all stressed out, if we're not taking a minute to decompress, we're not decompressing. And all that does is put more challenges on top of one another. And though we think, well, kids are kids, they don't have adult stress, you're right. They have kid stress. And because they don't have adult coping skills, it's important upon us to help teach those coping skills, because otherwise they don't have them. So what we do is, for a minute or two, we would have a teacher first kind of lead students in a mindful minute on the all call, and students would just kind of follow along. So let me play one from one of our staff members who did that.
Through your nose as you release the breath from your belly. This should make you feel pretty relaxed. The second time we do this, make a hissing sound as you release the air. Are you ready? Slowly begin to.
So that was Mrs. Brown sharing that. And I can honestly tell you that it worked, because when I would go in the hallway later, like I would hear students like hissing, like, so I knew like they were internalizing it, right? Now, as we moved on during the course of the year, we always wanted our students to own everything that we did. We wanted to become something that they took, they ran with it, they made it their own, right? Just like they started dancing and that became a thing, we also wanted the mindful minute to become something that reflected them and their needs. So when we went fully virtual and we had virtual morning meetings, we had students who actually sent in their virtual mindful minutes. So let me play one of those for you right now.
Hi guys, today I'm going to do my mindful moment on Orbeez. If you're like very stressed and you need to be in the moment, then you could play with Orbeez. Orbeez are very fun to play with, and they're soothing to just roll around. And if you picked up one and rolled it around in your hand, it soothes your hands. And it's also fun to just roll around all over the table. But if you're really stressed, all you have to do is sit in a tub of Orbeez and deep breathe.
Now that's got to be one of the coolest videos I think I've ever
I
seen.
loved that when I saw that.
Oh my God.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So great. All right. All right, my friends, any last words for all our people who've joined us today?
Barry, we do have a question from Stephanie in the
Okay.
chat that had asked about how much parent engagement that we have, what percentage of our parents actually view our videos, and do the parents actively participate?
Let's take that in reverse, right? So do parents actively participate? They've started to. In the beginning with the virtual morning meeting, everything was brand new. So I don't think anybody really kind of knew what it was going to be. But what we started to do is we would do these daily shout outs where I would just shout out students who were doing different things, and students would share in different things that teachers were doing. And so I started shouting them out too. So parents actually started to email me and say, I want to shout out, my child's teacher. I want to shout out my child. And so I started to shout out students and teachers from parents and incorporate that in that. And that actually then became a whole nother different snowball where I had students shouting out parents and relatives for different things that they were doing. Like we have a lot of siblings where our siblings would talk about, my older brother, I want to shout him out because he sits there and helps me with my work when I'm not sure. Or, my older sister is really great because when I get really unhappy, she sits there and plays with me, right? So it's those kind of little moments that really let all our families know that they're appreciated, they're celebrated, and they're noticed, right? So now the next one was, what was the middle one?
It was what percentage of our parents actually view the videos?
While we don't have a tag tracker on it, I can tell you it's really high, because I got feedback on a regular basis. I got emails and phone calls every day, while we were all home virtually, with families just saying thank you. You know, not even more than that. Even when we did yearbook distribution over the summer, and we had families coming in to pick up the yearbook or picking up their locker belongings, I cannot tell you how many parents said, you know what, you made my child's day when you referenced them in the virtual morning meeting. And, you know, when my son didn't necessarily want to watch it right away, I watched it because you made me laugh. And when you can do that, and the virtual morning meeting becomes something more than just something in your school, and it really becomes your entire school community, you know you're doing something right. So while I can't put a percentage on it, I can tell you it was a really high number. Do we have a
Definitely.
third
I
question?
think too, it was just about the parent engagement.
Okay.
And I would say too that I thought that there were more parents engaging towards the end of the year, just because there was that disconnect. You're not dismissing students to their parents anymore. You're just sort of logging off for the day, or not
Yes.
logging off for the day and getting Google Hangout messages at 8 o'clock at night, which is totally fine too, because we had to be flexible to accommodate who was working, who wasn't working, when the kids were able to log in, when they weren't able to log in. But I know I worked closely with both my co-teacher and my team teacher, and we made it a goal of one of ours to sort of highlight at least the kids at least once or twice during the whole pandemic, so that they can hear their name. And then if we knew their name was on, we're like, oh, don't forget to watch Mr. Saide's video, because it was posted on my Google Classroom and my co-teachers. So there's different avenues where the kids could, when they had time, click into it and see if their name or their family was shouted out, which was really cool.
Yeah, and I can tell you the level of engagement for me was unbelievable, because I got to know my students and teachers and families in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise. Just the fact that I knew every single day who was doing what, who was noticing what, who had something interesting happen, whether they built a tree fort in their backyard, whether they utilized their STEM project by doing something at home, whether they were making Play-Doh, they were taking pictures, they were starting their own YouTube channels, whatever it was, I was shouting it out. And so for me, when I would go through the roster list and I would see how students were doing in terms of where their academics were, I was literally going down the list going, oh, that one just was working on a STEM project. That one learned how to make pie. Oh, that student is just read these books. That student's sibling was doing this. So for me, it was like I would go through the list of 234 students and I would know something about every single one of them that wasn't in our Genesis book. So for me, it was a powerful thing too. So regardless of where we are, come September, whether we're in person or whether we're virtual, those kinds of traditions are going to be something that we continue, because I know for me, it was another way to get to know my students that I wouldn't have otherwise. Ms. Erickson, anything to add?
No, I mean, parent engagement wise, I mean, kind of PTA wise, I definitely feel like even before this pandemic, I felt like there was always a good turnout and a good, like, someone willing to lend a hand or volunteer. And, it was obviously my first year at Roosevelt, but I was very excited with the turnout, people that were always messaging or, looking to be a part of something.
Yeah.
As a parent, because sometimes you go into it like, here, like PTA, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to have help. I'm going to do all this on my own. But that 100% wasn't the case.
And we were talking too, in terms of connecting with families and parents, even when we come out of this pandemic, and it's healthy to be around each other, still providing families with opportunities to tune in a virtual way, because that's how we can engage them now. If they aren't able to get a babysitter for a 6 or 7 o'clock meeting, they could just tune in on a Zoom link, similar
definitely.
to this. And then we would continue to have people collaborate and talk and discuss. And, hopefully we're even seeing our PTA numbers go up. And as a teacher, I keep thinking about well, what does back to school night look like? Will I be connecting with parents like this for back to school night? What will parent teacher conferences look like? Everything is changing, but there's some really positive things that are also coming out of it, because now I can connect to that parent that works the 2 jobs and does not have time to get you know, an in-person conference, I'd be able to set up a time where we could hopefully do a face-to-face like this. And that is really great.
Yeah, no.
100%.
Barry, Lisa Falco here. We have one more question from
Sure. Okay.
How do you reach families whose first language is not English?
This is a great question.
It is.
Can I start off?
Yeah. Go for it.
All right, so I do not speak any other language besides English. I'm actually doing that as a Duolingo on my phone, but I'm definitely not in a conversation type of way for Spanish. And we do have a high Hispanic speaking population, but our district actually has built-in translators where we have teachers who fluently speak Spanish. And there are other languages too, Polish or Russian. And we are able to utilize a translator that is provided by the district to, whether it's to translate a memo that's going out. I know some of the apps have both English, but then lots of other languages that your communication or messages can be translated into. And our translators have really been great in terms of if there's a meeting or we need to make a phone call, they are always there and always available to help us so that we can reach that population of parents and that they don't feel isolated just because they don't speak or understand. Some parents understand but they can't speak back, so they feel uncomfortable, but we do our best to really make them feel comfortable coming in and trying to have that connection.
Yeah, and just to build on what Ms. Mathewson's saying, one of the things that we started to see from our students in our virtual morning meetings is they would send in clips of them teaching their home language to us to put onto the virtual morning meeting. So I don't know if you remember this, Ms. Mathewson, but we even had a student who did like a 5 or 6 minute video about how to say some different words in Polish.
Yes.
And so that got like 300 views by our students. So our students were very proud of their heritage, and we made sure to highlight and spotlight that. And in addition, the PTA was working in conjunction with some of our teachers and connecting in with our Hispanic Latino population to do a special night to highlight different cultures through food, through music, through dance, through literature. And unfortunately, the pandemic wiped that out this time, but hopefully we'll be able to do something like that moving forward.
If I could just pop in on the PTA angle from that, Rikki, I don't know if you're familiar with the National PTA website, but most of the basic PTA materials about membership, what is PTA? Why do we need PTA? What's good about it? Mostly all of that is translated into Spanish already at National's website. And anything on National's website can be reprinted and distributed or attached to an email or sent somehow virtually or electronically to all of your parents, not just PTA members. But it's all good information that, again, because of the language barrier, some people don't join us and then miss out on that part of the educational team, you know, the PTA, the parents, the teacher connection, administration connection. And I think that's fabulous that your school district provides a translator, because what we also suggest through the PTA angle is if you have parents who are bilingual in any of those languages, reach out to them specifically through the PTA and say, would you be willing to come and help us translate in an actual person-to-person format in a meeting? When we're saying, this is the treasurer's report, this is the plan for the family night. And sometimes that helps a lot. And sometimes you can get high school students who will come and do that for you. And that's just great for their resume.
Yeah.
As they go out into this world with multiple languages. So there are definitely a lot of resources, and PTA is aware of some of these language barriers. So definitely visit their website, because just about everything, that's the basic information that you want to communicate first. And then once they come into the fold, then you can go a little further with it with some of those other possibilities, you know, especially if your district people aren't available or you're doing things at night and they're not coming back to school to do that. So there's just a wealth of information on that website.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Any other questions or comments before we close out the session?
This was a fast hour.
Yes, it was.
Uh-huh.
Don't see any other questions, so I will say on behalf of New Jersey PTA and our attendees, thank you to all of you for being here with us. I think I certainly saw some really cool things that I now want to communicate with the PTAs in my district, my region within the state, which is Morris, Sussex, and Warren counties. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and that's a wonderful thing right there. And also
Yes.
to our attendees, you know, all of our sessions have been recorded, but this one in particular, not only can you share the slides, if you will, but you can share those actual clips that were shared with us to show it in action. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we talk a lot of words, well, you can do this and you can do that, but to actually see children and families and parents and teachers doing it live. I loved the little girl with those beads.
I know,
Mhm.
right?
That
She was
was fabulous.
It
Um,
was like
and
Patch
you,
Adams.
yes, you can take all of this back to your local units, share it with your staff, your parents, your administrators, and build upon it and do great stuff. So again, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. To our attendees, you got a little bit of a break, and then you can sign back on for a 5:45 session. And we hope you all learned something and enjoyed the presentation, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank
Lisa. Thanks,
you.
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.